I'm Joanne Pollock with Remark Art Consulting, and I'm here with Olaf Shneider today as part of my Inside the Studio series. So Olaf, great to be here.
Thank you so much for having me today and coming to visit my studio. Although we're outside, which is perfect, nice day, it's a great honor to be here with you and to hang out.
Thank you, and it is a great honor to be here with you as well. I'm looking around at your artwork as we sit here, and we're going to spend a few minutes and talk about our favorite subject, which is art.
Okay.
And as I look around at your work, it is a celebration of life in many respects, and I'm sure that people can understand that when they look at your work. I want to go back in time a little bit, and I want to go back to your days when you were first starting your art journey. I have to ask you this question because I want to know what you were really like as a kid.
Yeah, I didn't like sports. I didn't like to do very much other than sit home and color in a coloring book. Paint by numbers was the very, very first thing I was introduced to in grade 5, if I remember correctly. And painting on black velvet was really cool. I thought that was just the most amazing thing. And for the most part, I was a real happy camper doing just that, while my brother and all his friends were out playing hockey and baseball and stuff. I just rather stay home and paint and draw and take objects from the house and try to draw them. Getting a little older, I was really involved in the art classes in high school. I just wanted to learn so much. I was like a sponge, just wanting to soak everything up. And I would visit each art class and talk to all the different teachers and look at all the work that everybody was doing, just to get an idea of what's really all available. You know, before I would make a decision, I want to see what everybody else is doing so that I could do something different.
I have a feeling you were one of those kids in class that everybody knew that you were going to go into the arts. And I'm sure that your art teacher spied that early on. Your parents may have had a different hope for you, because a lot of artists tell me that their parents aren't exactly thrilled with the idea that their kids are going to be artists. Did your parents feel that way?
My dad didn't really say much. He was a factory worker, but my mom, on the other hand, she was just a celebratory type of a person. She would look at my pictures and celebrate them and just make such a great big deal out of everything and anything I ever did. So after a while, it kind of got a little bit old, because I wanted to show other people, and when I got good reactions from them, then I was able to hone in more on what Mom was telling me to do. And she told me a couple of things that stick with me to this very day. She said, fight for what you want, never give up, and just keep plugging away and never stop.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Especially for an artist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, you went on to have some years of very successful involvement with cars.
Yeah.
So, your Formula One.
Yeah, my favorite Formula One, back in the late 80s, in the early 90s, even all the way up to the middle 1996, 98. I got really very involved in painting race cars for two reasons. One, because I think they're really cool. The colors are really fast. And second of all, I wanted to try a new medium. I wanted to start working in oils. Up to this point, I had honed airbrushing as my primary medium, as my primary tool to paint pictures with. I was working at a company, the largest outdoor advertising company in Canada, a place called Mediacom, which has changed names over the years, is now Outfront Media. And when I first started working there, I got involved with screen printing because that's something that I got involved with after I left high school. I worked for a screen print company, but then Mediacom was printing them on big billboards. And but my interest was in the retouch department, where they're retouching the billboards, and I got to use this little airbrush and spray guns, and I would spray color onto the prints to make them look better, and just to retouch the pictures. And so from there, I moved down to the other location because they had various locations at the time, and that's where I worked with the masters. They were painting billboards by hand with brushes, with spray guns, and I was, oh wow, best job I ever had in my life.
So somebody noticed that you certainly were very naturally talented at what you were doing. So you catapulted then into more, would you say, more traditional subject matter when you began to paint? You forewent the billboards and you got into painting on canvas.
Yeah, I started doing the canvas paintings in oil, and I took my very first race car picture down to the IndyCar race here in Toronto, and left it in the paddock with Michael Andretti. It was a picture of Michael Andretti, and the team bought the painting. It was my first sale, my first oil painting, my first sale to a client of that caliber. I was over the top.
No kidding.
That was really neat. That was in 1994, July 17th, actually. I still remember that day. Yeah, that is so neat. And I met him, I shook his hand, they gave me a check, and I thought, oil painting's for me.
Your joyful personality is exuded in your work, and not all artists are able to capture that. So, how do you do that? How do you paint from within, obviously, to put down what you want to put down on canvas? As a matter of fact, I read something, it was kind of comical, where you said you take a smear of paint and you take a wire brush, I forget what you said, you just smear it around and get started. Hardly.
Yeah, not really, maybe. I go out, and my wife and I, we walk around, we go on holidays, we go up north, we go downtown. Everywhere we go, I've always have my camera, maybe a sketchbook, and if there's something that really excites me, which doesn't take much, I capture the image, and whether with a camera or in my sketchbook, and then I hang on to it. Maybe I'll print it off and I'll hang it up and I'll look at it a lot. And whatever speaks to me the loudest, the most, saying, paint me, I'm on it. I just love it. Just love it.
Yeah, I can tell. You mentioned, or somebody has mentioned, that your inspiration is Norman Rockwell. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, I love Norman Rockwell's work. He's a fine artist, one of the finest. He was taught by George Bridgman, who, if you were to look him up, he's quite the draw. He could draw very, very well. Also, William Bouguereau, he's very beautiful. His angelic images, just the technique. I just love that realism. I love the technique. Norman Rockwell's personality, and very matter of fact, very emotional. His paintings, you could look at his pictures and pretty much know what the story is about without having to read it. He was more or less an editorial illustrator.
He was a commercial illustrator.
And they consider him an illustrator, and in his books, he considers himself an illustrator, but he was an absolutely incredible fine artist. His technique and just everything, the way he went about doing it. Subject matter didn't matter. He could paint anything at all, and it just looked so beautiful and emotional. It was great.
Because he was telling great stories through his art, for sure. And when we think of Norman Rockwell, we think of that sort of there is a childlike essence that is captured in his work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's part of the visceral draw to him. I'm not sure. You said that you hope to see in a detail what others miss, and then make it compelling.
Yeah.
So, you want to push that idea a little bit further?
Sure. I think that when I'm looking at anything at all, I've been accused of staring. So, but what I'm really doing is I'm just
Observe.
looking at the form, looking at the color, and watching how the color changes from light to dark. My mentor, Ron Gregg, he says all the time, Olaf, there's detail, that's fine, but look at the detail in the detail. As an artist, I want to capture that, or at least attempt to. It's not always easy.
Like Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe, of course, her flowers are capturing something that the ordinary person wouldn't take the time to observe, right?
A guy that I learned from when I was 17, one of my mentors, he says, Olaf, what Mona wants, Mona gets. She's got to sit there. So sky's the limit. It's all good. As long as you're happy, you have to love it. You really do. You have to love it. And until you do, I'll keep working at it. We got married, and our honeymoon was up in Algonquin, near Algonquin Park.
Nice.
And we spent the whole week out there exploring. And when I came home, all I did, I dropped the race cars, and all I wanted to paint was what we saw while we were up there.
You got to get
And
it out.
that's when it all began, doing the outdoor landscapes, doing the canoe series, my those chairs, the Muskoka chairs,
Which is a very Canadian thing to
So,
do,
yeah,
Olaf, right?
absolutely.
Because people usually buy their environment, right?
Mhm,
So we were just at the McMichael yesterday, and I was thinking about what I love about being a Canadian, and it is this.
Oh yeah.
And it is the color of the trees,
Yeah.
and it is the whole environment, right?
Absolutely.
And many Canadians love that. But then you go into something like your Venetian masks,
Yeah, that trip to Italy,
which
that
are
was so
wild
much
and
fun.
so beautiful. Like that stuff really grabs me. It's powerful. I love that. It's beautiful. The jewels are fantastic. You know, the craquelure on the mask, the red, the gold. It's very dramatic.
I loved it. But our trip to Venice was just mind blowing. I took so many photographs.
Oh, Venice.
I've so many things to see there, and just gorgeous.
Venice is
This
special.
planet is so full of eye candy.
It is. It
that
is.
I just want to paint it all.
It is. It is. Well, do your best.
Yeah, that's the plan.
So what's up next for Olaf? What are you working on? What projects are you thinking about? Where is your head going to take you next?
Well, I want to do some larger floral paintings, and I want to do some northern scenes.
Northern Canadian scenes?
Yes, northern Canadian scenes. We spent some time up in Temagami this past summer, and we had a blast. It was really wild up there. The foliage, everything, the trees, they have character, and they're very strong and very powerful. Really excited to do that. I've got a whole bunch of drawings and images from our trip around Lake Superior, so I want to do a couple more of those. I have some commissions underway that I'll be starting those as soon as some decisions are made, and yeah, it's fun. I just love it. This isn't even really work. It's just it's play, but it's not. It's very serious. I work 8 hours a day. I'm painting minimum 6 hours a day, constantly, maybe on 2 or 3 pieces at a time, so that I can keep the flow of energy going in each piece and let one dry and move on to another, and just to keep my mind flowing, because I get a little bit antsy if I'm working on a piece for too long.
I could see you being a terrific inspiration, Olaf, to young artists who are unsure of their path and how to go forward. So, COVID or no COVID, you're on your game.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much for agreeing to talk to me this morning about your incredible work. We all love it.
Thank you
And
so much.
continued success as we go forward.
Thank you so very much,
You're
Jill.
quite welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.